In this lecture, we are going to talk about data binding and communication between view and view model. What is data binding in MVVM? Data binding is a concept to describe how to connect the view and the view model. The property in the view is connected with the property in view model in such a way that change in one property automatically updates the other property. Please note that in Xamarin Forms, there could also be a data binding between two view controls, for example, a slider and a label control. This is known as view-to-view binding. How exactly are view and view models properties connected? Well, the view model is the binding source in our case. It exposes public property with some data. On the other side, we have view, which is the binding target. It has a UI property on some control. This property can be a text property on a label, for example. And the data binding is what connects these two properties. So when the property in the view model changes, the property in the view is also automatically changed. Okay, how this looks like in code. Let's say we want to display hello binding text from the view model on the view. First, we start by defining this as a public string property. Next, we bind, that is, connect that property with the property text of the label. To bind these two properties, we are using binding keyword and the name of the property we want bind to. The last step is to tell the view where the data is coming from. What is the source of the data? Xform uses the binding context property of the view to connect it with the source of the data. We assign binding context to be an instance of the view model, and then the view uses public properties of the view model. As a result, we can see our text on the screen. What are the data binding modes between source and target property? First, data binding mode is a way to describe in what directions data flows between two connected properties. The binding mode is specified with a binding mode enumeration. First, we have default. This means if the mode is not specified, the default value is used, and the default value is one-way binding. One-way binding means that data goes from the source to the target, in our case from the view model to the view. Two-way means data goes both ways between source and target. One way to source, data goes from target to source. One time, data goes from source to target, but only when the binding context property of the view changes. Hopefully, this explains a thing or two. Let's go back to the code.